Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Refine and Shine podcast. I am so excited. I have such an amazing guest, and I love when I have guests because they can share stories, reach a different type of audience, and just the challenges that they have faced. I just love bringing to light these type of stories. It motivates me, and it helps me encourage you who are listening that you can get through hard things. And so today I have a very amazing person. I met him through an event, which I always encourage you guys, put yourself in the room, go to events. We met as we're volunteers for the event, but I just want to speak high volume of him and his beautiful wife. They volunteered, but they also had the highest ticket for the event. So they volunteered, came a few days early, helped us set it up, and then they attended as well as, full paid guest. And I think that's amazing. We met through Amberly Lago, who, if you haven't followed her, follow her. She's so amazing. But I have today Ian Bowen, and he is a motivational speaker. He's a coach, and he's also a podcast host of the Positive Persistent podcast, which is centered around the needs to shift your mindset and conquer your goals. One of the things I love about him is that he is so humble. And when I really got to know his story, it was after the event. Like when you would look at who he is and how he was helping with so many things, you wouldn't have known that his story was so different many years ago. One of the things, one of his quotes is, the doctors told him, "You'll never run again." And his response was, "Watch me." I just love that. He was paralyzed by a rare disease, and he was unable to sit upright in bed. The surgeons informed him that he might not regain the ability to walk again, but if he does, he'll need a walker, crutches, or a cane to do so. Ian refused to accept what the experts were telling him. When he asked if he would ever run again, they said, most likely not. Despite the bleak prognosis for recovery, Ian made a very important decision that day. He set his sights on a full recovery. Without feeling or movement in 75% of his body, he began to work diligently, relearning how to do everything from sitting in bed to standing up on his own, refusing to accept his prognosis. Setbacks and challenges from the medications, the weight gain, and the slow, hard road of rehabilitation was enough to have anyone settle for good enough. But Ian's secret weapon was his mindset and his positive persistence. And earlier this year, Ian ran his second marathon. Ian, I think that's so amazing. And I want to ask you, one, thank you for being here. And I just want to know, with that type of thing, those challenges that you faced earlier in your life, when you were going through these things, what were your thoughts and feelings when you were told you could never run again?
Well, first off, Angelina, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here, and to have met you in Dallas and spend some time with you. You are also an amazing individual, so humble, so helpful, and here we are, both in the early days of putting on our podcast. So this is great. Um, but to answer your question, when I was first told you will most likely never run again, the first thing that came to my mind was I took offense, to be honest. I took it personally. I had the idea in my mind, or actually the emotion, actually, was like, who are you talking to? Like, you don't know me, doc. Like, how are you about to tell me what I won't be able to do? And I think I felt that way because I'd been an athlete all my life.
Mhm.
And previous to having the surgery, I had picked up running about a year earlier, and I was training for a 5K. I had my surgery in June. My 5K was in August. So not really understanding really all the intricacies and the depth of really my prognosis and my diagnosis. I was like, okay, I have to have the surgery. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let me rehab and recover so I can run my race.
Mhm.
So when they told me like you will never run again, that thought had never entered my mind until they told me that. And then it was just immediate disbelief, and not disbelief as in like, I can't believe that you're telling me this, but disbelief in as in, I don't believe what you're telling me. And that right there, that conscious decision to not believe what the doctor was telling me. In other words, not allowing his perception of what my future was going to be become my reality. That was the key. That was the ignition point. That was the spark, the jump off of the whole journey back to where I am currently.
I think that's amazing. And so when you had just started running right before your diagnosis, and then you had to have the surgery, and then you're still in your mind like, I'm going to do this 5K. And so did you do the 5K in June or August, you
Did
said?
I did. I only made it a mile, but I made it a mile, and
Hmm.
I had to use my walker. At that point, I had gotten some use of my legs back, but I lacked a lot of feeling. I had to wear ankle braces on both of my ankles because every step I would take, I had the tendency to roll my ankles because I couldn't feel them. So I had to have these ankle braces on, and it was all upper body. Would move that walker, and I would take these not lumbering, but very labored, I should say, steps. And I made it a mile, and after that, I was done. I was exhausted. I was toast. But my first 5K post surgery was 1 mile long, but it was a huge victory because I got out there and I did it because I was like, I signed up for this thing. I'm going to do whatever I can, however I can to participate.
That's so amazing because most people wouldn't even sign up for something like that. In fact, 5Ks, a lot of people don't think that's just ridiculous. Like, why would you do it? And, it's 3.1 miles and you did it. It's something that most people don't even, let alone when we get into the marathon, because that's very rare. Um, to do, but you still did it. You still went out there, and even though it was labor intensive, and of course, you're here in a walker doing a mile. A mile is, a far way. And so I commend you for that. And what was some of the things that, got you from barely, barely, not barely, because you did the mile, but,
Mhm.
having to do the mile with the walker and then to getting to where you are today, where you have went through, like now what, two marathons you've ran since
Mhm.
So
Correct.
what was some of the things that you went through and like the mindset and all the things that you got to take you from a mile with a walker to full on running marathons?
Sure. So it started off in the hospital, really, when I was recovering. One of my high school friends visited me and he shared a quote with me from Gandhi, which has been a mantra that I've lived by ever since. And the quote is that strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. And that is for me, that was really sunk in and it really clicked as it if it's going to be, it's up to me. Like I have to do everything in my power to get back to where I want to be. Turn over every rock. I have to look at every opportunity that I can to better myself to get back to where I want to be, which was my goal was immediately 100% recovery, no matter what. And there wasn't a plan B. There was just plan A. So it was either I make it or make it. Like those were the options. That was it. And at the time, I'm 32 years old. I have my daughter 6, my son is 1, and I wasn't about to raise them in a wheelchair. Now, there's obviously nothing wrong with that for people who are in wheelchairs and they can't help their situation. For me, I it was just that wasn't in the cards for me. Like I was not about to not allow myself to recover so I wouldn't be able to get down on the floor and play with my 1-year-old son or be able to carry my 6-year-old daughter at her birthday or whatever it was, in the future.
Mhm.
Like I was not going to be relegated to any type of durable medical equipment, which I had to use all through my recovery, from being in a wheelchair to a walker to 2 canes to 1 cane to finally nothing, which that was the first, I guess, threshold of being able to push through a glass ceiling that someone had put on me.
Like that.
Because the doctors had told me that we think you'll probably walk again, but it's going to be with some sort of durable medical equipment. But to answer your, I mean, it's a long-winded answer to
That's
your
fine.
question,
No, it's
but
amazing.
it
I love
was
it.
it was immediately having the mindset of I either make it or I make it. Like those were the options, and that was it. And also being humbled by being in the hospital. I was there for 3 weeks. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I wasn't the type of person that was going to lay in bed. So whenever possible, I would get in my wheelchair and I'd wheel around the hospital. And one of those days, I went down a level beneath me, and that was the pediatric neurological wing. And I saw kids in there that were 5, 6, 7. Some were teenagers, but they were in there with traumatic brain injuries. Yet they were just being kids. Like they were enjoying life as well as they knew how. And I got to thinking to myself, these kids are at the most 16 years old. They have not experienced life. I was 32. Up at that point, I had led a pretty good life. And I thought to myself, if these kids can be in a good mood and in good spirits and can smile and laugh and play when they're going through this, I don't have it so bad. And why can't I be that way? Why can't I have that same mindset? And so they really inspired me to kind of have a gut check and say, like, look, man, I mean, life could be worse. Like, yeah, the situation that you're in right now, it sucks, but you're gonna do whatever you can to get out of it. And again, that was I guess, the framework for having that indomitable will and that no plan B and no other option but success.
That's amazing. A lot of people don't have that mindset, and just seeing others who cannot do for themselves or have, issues and things like that, that I love that you just feel like I just have a plan A. And, you looked at those, others that maybe have less fortunate as you, and you're like, okay, they're loving life and living life. and I can live it. And you had the willpower to do the things that you needed to do to get things done, to do, you know, all the things, the challenges you had to face. It wasn't just you wanted to run the 5K and then the marathons. Like you had to learn, to walk and to, you know, have the will to do all of these things. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And so you had the mindset that you had during your recovery and rehabilitation was that when you framed the positive persistence?
Little did I know, yes. I didn't come up with that phrase or that term until years later when, I was asked a lot because I am a fitness professional. I own a gym. I've trained clients for, the last 13 years. And through those years, my clients I never would lead with my story because I didn't want that to be, I don't know, I didn't want them to feel like they had to kind of work hard to live up to what I had done in the past. So I never really told them my story. They kind of always found out somehow on their own.
Mhm.
And then when they found out, they're like, wow, like, that's an amazing story. Like, how did you do it? Like, how did you get through all those obstacles? And after fielding that question time after time, I finally came to the realization the answer was it was positive persistence. Like I remained positive no matter what. Now, with that being said, of course, there were days where, I felt like I didn't want to get out of bed or I didn't want to have to continue fighting to get back to normalcy because that's all I wanted. All I wanted was to get back to the person I was before surgery. And being an athlete, any of the athletes out there, when you have an injury, like you want to recover yesterday, like you want to be done and healed so you can go play your sport. And I wanted to be done and healed so I could get back to life as I knew it. But that just was not a reality because it was so far from what I would call normal for my life. As you mentioned, having to learn how to walk. I mean, that was the macro thing that I had to relearn. And I also had to relearn the micro things, like just being able to stand up or just
Mhm.
being able to balance or just being able to get up out of a chair or get into a car or out of a car. All those things that we take for granted, got to relearn how to do all those things. As you mentioned in the intro, just sitting up in bed was something I had to relearn because I was paralyzed from the chest down. So just being able to sit up, that was something that I couldn't do because post-surgery, I was a paraplegic. And from the chest down, there was nothing. So having to relearn all those things, I learned early on that I have to stay positive because if I begin to go into the woe is me, why is this happening? What am I going to do now? That is just a endless spiral of negative thoughts that are not going to lead me to where I want to go,
Yeah, they're not going to
which,
serve you.
yeah, they're not going to serve me. And that's something that I passed on to my clients once I become a personal trainer. I actually, when one of my first meetings with them, I said, look, if we're going to train together, and I say this to our gym members now when they come in for a membership, I say that there are 5 words that you are not allowed to say when we train together. And that is try, can't, won't, don't, and sorry, because those are all are negative words that lead to negativity. They're powerless words that lead to negativity. I say, so I need you to get your mind right, shift your paradigm, and I want you to be using words like can, will, must, because I want you to focus on the things that you can do, not the things that you can't do. And that
Oh,
was
wow.
born out of my experience in my recovery, because if I focused on the things that I couldn't do, which Angelina, there were plenty of things that I couldn't do that I once was able to do, it would have been really easy for me to fall into that pity party syndrome and just be defeated. Luckily for me, I had some great support in my life. One of those pillars of support was my physical therapist. Once I got out of the hospital, I got back home, I got hooked up with a physical therapist, a wonderful woman. Dolly Fatke's her name. She probably kill me if she hears me saying this, but is maybe 5 feet tall, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, maybe. But she kept me in check. She would allow me to, she would see, because we had a nice bond after a while, because I would see her
Mhm,
5 days a week
mhm.
for my physical therapy. The first day she saw me, I came in my wheelchair, and she said, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, but don't come back with that wheelchair. Come
Oh,
back with your
wow.
walker." So I was like, "Oh, okay, it's gonna be like that." But I was like, "Yes, that's exactly the type of person that I want to be with to help push me." So we bonded quickly. And there were those days where I would come in and she could see it on my face that I was defeated. Like I just didn't want to work. And she would talk to me and she would let me get it off my chest for about 5 minutes. And then she would look at me and she would say, "Are you done now? Can we get to work?" And that always got me jump started to get moving again. But what she did for me is she allowed me to sit in my feelings for a minute. She
Mhm.
let me acknowledge them. And then she pushed me to let them go and get back to the work at hand and get my focus back to, again, being positive and staying persistent, because that's also the key. Like it's not like a once I try this, maybe twice, 3 times, it doesn't work out and maybe it's not for me. It's like, no, it is intentional focus day in and day out. And something that I've learned recently in working with Ben Newman, who was also at that event with Amberly Lago. He talks about intentional focus and aggressive patience. So even though I wanted to be better yesterday, I knew that wasn't the case, but I had to continue to attack recovery, knowing that it was going to take a long time. So I had to
That
have that aggressive patience, which also that kept me positive and kept me excited, because I was making progress little by little and I was stacking those small wins, but my goal was still way ahead of me. But I kept getting excited. I kept staying positive. I kept persisting, because through that hard work, I would acknowledge those small wins along the way, which is something I think that people don't do enough. We're always really focused on the goal, but we don't take the time to stop and look back on how far we've actually come to reaching that goal, even though we might not even be close. But we rarely look back and say, "Wow, I put a lot of work in. Look how far I've already come." I feel good about that. And that gets me juiced and jacked for continuing to move forward, which I think is key.
I think that's amazing. And that's one of the things that I also, talk about is you got to every day celebrate those wins and celebrate those micro moves that you had to do. And not just like once you get to the goal, okay, I'm done. Like, no, what's in that, or not even acknowledge you went to the goal and what's next. Like people don't even just take or they just don't take for granted just the everyday things that they go through in life, and just like the pleasant the precious moments that we have and things like that,
Mhm.
which I think is so important. And I love that you have this pillar, the pillars that you call your rinse, I think is your rinse principles. And could
Mhm.
you talk about that acronym and how it helped you sustain your grit and resilience?
Absolutely. So RITS is something that, again, unknowingly I was creating along this rehabilitation journey, which I'm still on, to be honest. I still have deficiencies from that surgery that I deal with on a daily basis. And something that I had to realize about 2 years ago is that I will never be 100% healed. Like that was my goal after surgery, was I wanted to be 100, make 100% recovery. But I had to realize that that's never going to happen. And I have to be okay with that. But what I do know now is that I can be 100% of what I can be now. And that's the goal. Because there's no way I can't go back. I'm never going to be 32 years old again. I'm never going to be able to do some of the things that I was able to do at the level I was able to do them physically before my surgery. But as long as I know that I'm giving 100% now and being 100% of who I can be now, that's the goal. So along the way, I did develop these principles, and that acronym R.I.N.S is a representation of that. So the R in R.I.N.S is remember that you can do hard things. So when you are backed up against the wall, or when you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders and you feel like, I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to get through this, remember that you can do hard things. And if you refine your thinking, you will always be able to think back to some point in your life where you were able to overcome what seemed to be insurmountable. So the key is remember, you've been here before. It may not be in the same situation, it may not be in the same light, but you've been in the situation before where you were able to overcome. So just remember that you can do hard things. And then the I is for imagine. And for me, being in a hospital bed, paralyzed from the chest down, that's really all I could do for quite some time was imagine what it would be like to be able to walk again. So that visualization process of imagining my goal already being done. I would imagine walking again. I would imagine what the world would look like from a standing position and not being in a wheelchair. I would imagine what the ground would feel like under my feet, or the wind passing by my ears. I would say blowing in my hair, but as you can see, I'm bald. So I had to imagine what that would feel like, though. So I put myself mentally in that position of imagining already of achieving my goal and what it would be like to walk again, what it would be like to run again. And so that really helped me paint the picture so vividly that I could almost, no pun intended, but step into that vision when it was time. And then the N we've already talked about, and that is notice your small wins. And that is so crucial because once we're able to look back and see the things that we've been able to accomplish, that gives us the confidence to know that we are able to push forward and achieve things in the future. And it's so important to stack those small wins because we know once you stack them over time, those small wins turn into big ones. And then the S is for shift, and that's all about shifting your mindset. And again, that's something that I had to do immediately, was shifting my mindset to the positive and always focus on, I am going to do this. I can do this. I will do this because there are no other options. And shifting my paradigm and shifting my mindset, that always pushed me subconsciously to get up every day and do everything I could that day to move towards my goal. All the time knowing to expect it's not going to be easy. And that's what the E is. The E stands for expect. On our journey to our goal, no matter what it is, we have to expect that it's going to get difficult because life has its ups and it has its downs. And we are in la la land if we expect it to be simple. That's not life. That's not how life works. You are going to have to fight. You are going to have to dig. You are going to have to grind. You are going to have to push through adversity at some point to get to where you want to go. So the expectation of knowing that at some point in time, you're going to be up against it really helps to refine your mental toughness. And I think that is key because once you expect that life is going to slap you in the face, you can brace for it. And then once you can brace for it, that's going to help you come back. That's going to help you get off the mat once you're knocked down. So that's what the R.I.N.S pillars are all about.
I really like that. I think that it can, you can use that for everything. And I like how you shared that expect things to be hard because everybody thinks like that they want this easy roadmap. Like, how am I going to become a billionaire? Give me the 5 steps of everything I need to do. But they don't understand that, it's not going to be easy and everybody's journey is different. but we have to understand that we are going to go through obstacles. We're going to go through hard things. Life is not easy, but if we have the mindset knowing that, okay, this might happen, but not be like, oh, see, this, everything happens to me, not have that type of mindset, like, okay, this happened, but I'm prepared for it. My mind is focused. I know how to shift my brain, my thoughts, my positive thoughts, not have that negative energy. And it just makes such a difference. And when you talk about the imagine, I mean, imagining and visualizing of moving, getting that, walking that step, finishing that finish line, visualizing those goals, I think is so important. And a lot of people don't go and think about those things. They don't see, what the vision is. They're working and working and working. Well, what are they working for? Like, you should have a vision, a clear expectation. You should, like, if you want this particular house or you want a particular whatever you want, like, imagine it, feel it, go out and walk. Me and my husband used to do this when we wanted to buy our house. We would go and we'd walk at homes and walk through them, like test car the car you want, all of those things,
Yep.
because then your mind gets focused, your brain shifts, like, how can I make this possible? And it's
Yes,
so important. So I love that.
absolutely. Yes, when you start to think about the things that you want, they say that you become what you think about, right? And the more that you are thinking about, the more that you're imagining those goals, the more you're going to start to pull them towards you. And I truly believe that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I really like that principle, those pillars. I think it's amazing. And one of the things that you talked about, I mean, were you a fitness instructor prior to your surgery, or that's something like you ran your first 5K at, going through, a mile after surgery. You ran 2 marathons and then you also became a fitness instructor?
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, I am very grateful that I was diagnosed with neurosarcoidosis and I had spinal cord surgery and that I was paralyzed from the chest down. Because if I weren't, that wouldn't have made me into the person that I am today. And I wouldn't be here talking to you and having this opportunity to share our stories and to help other people. But yeah, I was not. I was in a totally different industry. Um, and during my recovery, I got to a point to where I was working with my physical therapist to where she couldn't help me anymore. And she was like, this is as far as I can take you. So, like I had mentioned, I had been an athlete all of my life. I really enjoyed weight training. So I got a membership at the local YMCA. And on my lunch breaks, I would go work out and I would do what I could. In the beginning, I would literally walk in there with my walker and I would set it next to a machine and I would do whatever I could with my upper body. And eventually I would walk in with my 2 canes and I would set them next to a machine and do whatever I could. And then one day I was working out and I was looking in the mirror and the universe dropped a brick on my head and said, you should become a personal trainer. So I did. So I got certified and I started working at that YMCA as a trainer on the side of working my full-time job. And then I had to make the decision because I loved doing that. I loved being a personal trainer. I loved helping people get into shape. And for me, through my journey of lack of mobility, of having to deal with weight gain, so I was on 12 different medications and it doesn't sound like a lot, but I put on, 30 pounds. I was maybe 150, 155 pounds soaking wet pre-surgery. And then I ballooned up to 180. And that none of that was muscle. That was all fat. And so I gained weight. I knew what it was like not to be happy to look at myself in the mirror and be happy with what I saw. I knew what it was like to have that self-esteem issue. So I really was able to connect with anybody that was coming in to a gym to get healthy because I knew exactly what they were going through. So it really put me on a path to be able to help people pretty quickly and also to be able to connect and have a great rapport with them. So I really loved doing that. And to this day, I really think that is one of the best jobs in the world is being a personal trainer or group instructor that can help somebody that is typically at their lowest point and really have an intimate relationship with them and help them understand that they are more powerful than they know. and that they can achieve amazing things. And all the coaching that I've done over these past, 12 years has led me to now wanting to share this story with everybody and speaking on it. But to answer your question again, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, I love it. I love it.
Walking in there and then having that epiphany that I should be a personal trainer, that's what it was. The universe touched me and said, you should do this. So I listened and I got certified, and I was working at 3 different gyms and finally had to make the decision of I need to leap into this full time. So I quit my full-time job and became a personal trainer.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And I loved how you shared like what had happened to you, that you took that and you are so thankful for it because it made you who you are today. And those are the things that I think that often people are like, again, the mindset, oh, why does this have to happen to me? But enjoying that everything that happened to you is for, God's given plan. And then it helps you to be who you are today and to make the best out of everything that happens to you. Like it has changed your life tremendously, but you are a happier person. You have helped so many people. And you've become like, agree, like there's a lot of things that have happened to me and I wouldn't be here today knowing without, the mindset shift, the growth, having the positive mindset and wanting to share the stories of positivity with people, that I would also be here today. And I love doing this. I love sharing stories and helping motivate others. And it's like just impacting that one person, and now we have our podcast, so we can inspire so many more on a whole different level, people that we may never meet. And I think that's amazing. And I also wanted to go back to something that you said earlier, is you don't lead with your story with your clients. And in fact, when we first met, I didn't even know your story. I knew that, you and your wife, you guys were into fitness, you guys were instructors, and didn't even know until afterwards all the things that you had went through. And I just think that, you're a very humble person, and it's not like, hey, I've had all this happen to me. You weren't even like that. You were just like going from one thing to the next. What can I help you with? What can I help you with? And I mean, all the heavy lifting and all the things that we had to do, and you were positive and like, hey, let's get a photo, and just kept us motivated. And I think that that's such an inspiration, is like not letting what happened define you, and then also just having that positivity, I think is so amazing. So when you went through, how far
Thank
was
you.
it from your 5K, doing the 5K, did it
Mhm.
take you to get to the part where you ran the marathon?
Well, that marathon, let's see. So my surgery was in 2009, and it was about a year and a half before I was able to kick the canes, if you will, and be able to ambulate on my own. Um, and I ran my first marathon. That was in 2021. Um, sorry, 2022. So I ran my first marathon in 2022. So it was about 13 years later that I ran that first marathon. So there was a long span of time there. But it took me quite some time to be able to, you know, run just a 5K. And in between that 5K, that first 5K that I did, and the marathon that I ran, I have run multiple 5Ks, and then I jumped to half marathons. So I ran about 5 or 6 half marathons before I ran the full marathon. And that's something that I had to learn how to do, because like I was saying earlier, I still have deficiencies from that surgery, and one of them
Right.
is hypertonia, which is best described, I guess, as my muscles don't expand and contract like they're supposed to. And because my information highway, my spinal cord, was compromised, the signals from my muscles to my brain don't act or don't connect like they normally would. So sometimes the signals don't get there. Sometimes the signals are garbled. So my left leg was affected more so than my right. So it really fatigues faster, and it has lack of mobility because my brain always wants to protect that leg. So it's always in this mode of not letting my left leg, those muscles expand like they're supposed to, because they're trying to protect it and say, don't expand or else we're going to be injured. So I always have a hitch in my giddy up when I run or when I walk. If you were to watch me get up from this chair after our podcast or after our conversation, you would see that I wouldn't be able to stand up and start walking. I have like this excessive tone in my muscles, like it's rigidity actually, that prevents me from moving for a couple of seconds until my brain realizes, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. So
Wow.
I still deal with those things, but you just have to relearn. You have to reframe. You have to really just accept that you're going to have these issues, but you have to, again, refine your thinking. You have to refine so you can shine, right?
Mhm.
You have to
Right.
refine your thought process to make the best of it because when I wake up tomorrow, I'm still going to have hypertonia. I'm still going to have spasticity in my muscles. So that's I can expect it. That's the expectation. It's going to happen.
Mhm.
So how do I make the best out of it? I just deal with it and do whatever I can to battle it on a daily basis.
I have ran 10 marathons myself,
That's amazing.
and
That is amazing.
it's been, and so I was wondering if you had ran half marathons, and it's not an easy thing. And the reason I have been able to, I ran a lot of half marathons, but the reason I've been able to is I used to be a pacer. So I would help, and I always volunteered to be the person at the end, like the sweeper who helped the people at the end finish the race. And
Yeah.
everybody would be like, oh my goodness, like the first time I did it, I helped somebody who had been in a wheelchair and helped her finish. And it took us 4.5 hours, but she did it. And to have her cry and just it gives me chills still, just all the things that it's just quite an amazing accomplishment. And there's a lot of people that are like, why do you do that? Well, why not? Like it's just the feeling, like talk about like finishing that finish line and just seeing people who can't do things like that, that we have the ability, yet we stop ourselves because we don't have the mindset to do hard things
Yes.
sometimes. So I think that's
Yes,
amazing.
that's awesome. I love that. And I was at in the Indy Mini Marathon. I think it was their 45th anniversary. It was a couple years ago. And they had a banner at the expo before the race. And on the banner it said why I run. And people would write up little notes on there why they run. And I simply wrote on there because I can. Because at one time I couldn't.
Mhm.
And it's like you said, for me, like I can do it now. So I better because there's people out there who can't,
Right.
who want to, but physically can't do it. So, and I've had people ask me like, why do you run? Like you're training for a marathon. Why do you do this? The people who
Yeah.
aren't running hate running. They're like, well, why would you do that? And it's like, because I can't. Because I know what it's like to not be able to. And it's people don't understand like what it's like to not be able to do the things with your body when you want to do them, how you want to do them. It's a very powerless feeling if you allow it to be.
Yeah. If you
But
allow
like you
it.
said, yes, if you have the right mindset to not let that define you, define who you are, define your mindset, define your day, define your month, define your year, like you have the option always, every day when you wake up, what kind of day it's going to be. Is it going to be a good day or is it going to be a bad day? There's only two options on that one, right? But it's always up to us to make the choice of what kind of action we're going to take that day.
No, I agree. And that's one of the things, like when I ran, it was a therapy for me when I started running. I was going through some hard things, and I would start running just to get my mind. It was like a time for me to be at peace without, and some would say I was escaping life, and I was just like, I could sit on binge and watch Netflix or whatever, or I can go out there and um pound sand, and run. And it was something that I went through, and from there I started, joined a running group, and it was just inspiring and helping others who couldn't. And dedicated some runs to those people who couldn't, those that were in like wheelchair bound or things like that. They couldn't touch the pavement with their feet. And so I think that's inspirational. And you got me thinking, like, I haven't ran in a couple of years, and I need to get out there and start running again. And I actually just wanted to share this with you is the inspiration, your wife, when we met, she had just had surgery, and just talking to her and talking to you, and it was like, you guys made me feel motivated, because there was a time where I stopped going to the gym and stopped doing all these things. And I was like, why am I letting my self-care go for, I started realizing I was working too much and doing all these things and wasn't really making the time to take care of my self-care as in the gym. I was taking,
Yeah,
eating the right things, taking the right supplements, nutrition, all those things. But I started going to the gym, and my son and I, we go together when we can, and
it's
he
great.
pushes me and motivates me. And if I say, I can't, I'm not allowed to say I can't. I do everything that he does. I just may do lower weights. But it's been inspiring. And then it's like, it's you are the example for your children.
Mhm.
And you have children, and you are the example for your children. And um how has how you have changed your whole life, the positivity, all the things that have happened since the day of your diagnosis to who you are today. How has that changed your relationship as a parent, and what kind of model are you to your children? Did you want to be during this whole thing?
I try my best. And you know what? I'm not gonna say that I try because I do. I do my best to always be positive with our kids. So just to be clear, we have six and we are a blended family. So um, when I married my wife, my current wife, she has four boys. I have a daughter and a son. So obviously, Dana, my wife, her boys didn't know me all their lives. Our youngest, Hayes, he was probably three when we first met. But when we first met, I was just a coach at a gym that his mom was going to. Um, but both of us lead with positivity. And interesting sidebar, when I met Dana, she was a member at my gym. And she would always say that I was her Yoda, like her mindset Yoda. Because I was always talking to her about, positive mindset, positive persistence, and keep on going. You can do it, and you can overcome anything you put your mind to. But now she's become, I call her my love Yoda, because she has taught me how to lead with love all the time. So our kids, they see the positivity and they see the love every day. And a perfect example of that is our 7-year-old this morning gets up and makes breakfast without either of us knowing about it. And I get up early and I start working. So I'm busy working, and Dana's on her computer, and he comes downstairs and he made mom a bagel with peanut butter on top and 4 chocolate chips, and just said, Mommy, I love you. And I wanted to make you breakfast in bed, but you weren't in bed. So I brought it to you anyway. And so that is a testament to you're right. Your kids are always watching. They're always listening. But the key is that they're going to follow your actions more than your words, I think, anyway.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's a wonderful thing when I hear our kids repeating some of the things that I tell them in terms of positivity or helping them get their mind right or dealing with situations, or even if it has to do with fitness and health, just repeating the things that you told them. And it's really awesome when you hear them saying it to their friends. Like when you hear the kids giving their friends advice, and that advice is the things that you told them. Then you feel like, okay, they're listening. I'm doing my job and it's getting through to them. So that's awesome. But it's really just again leading with love and leading with my heart in terms of when they're upset to try to reframe things to help them look at a solution for the problem and to help them know that they can't overcome it no matter what it is, what the problem is. I tell them repeatedly, as long as you have it here in your head and you have it here in your heart, you can accomplish anything. Mindset in your head, work ethic in your heart, you can accomplish anything. And one of the things that we both of us tell our kids is work hard and be kind. You do those two things, you're going to go far in life.
I love that. I love that. Um, that's really good because that's, you model, you're modeling it, you're speaking it, and you're showing it with love. Like actions speak louder than words sometimes, but you're doing all of it combined, and I think that's amazing. One of the things I wanted to also ask you is, you're now also a motivational speaker, and how did that come about?
My wonderful wife, she has been telling me for years, you should be a motivational speaker. You should be telling your story. And I've always been hesitant to tell my story. And I don't know why, Angelina. I guess I've really never been, I guess what I feel is like a look at me, look at what I've done type of person. So I still have a hard time. Like if someone says, tell me your story. It's kind of like, I don't want to, I don't know. I guess I don't want to come off as braggadocious, I guess.
Mhm.
But anyway, so our mutual friend, Amberly Lago, she was speaking at a event. So the gym that I own is part of a franchise, and it's called Fit Body Boot Camp. So she was speaking at Fit Body Boot Camp World Conference. And again, my wife had put the bug in my ear a couple of times. You should become a speaker, you should tell your story. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'm doing the gym thing. I'm being a coach. I love doing that. But then I heard Amberly speak and I heard her tell her story. And even though it's very different than mine, we still have a lot of parallels. And after she was done speaking, she's like, if you want to ask me any questions, I'll be out in the lobby and I'm more than willing to talk to you. And once again, the universe tapped me on the shoulder and said, go, go talk to her. So I went and talked to her and, I kind of told her in a nutshell my story. And she was like, you have an amazing story. You should share that. And that's when it finally clicked and cemented in my mind that, okay, I'm going to do this. And I did one of her programs that she has and helping you kind of refine your story, and that helped me build the confidence to become a speaker. Um, and then I just had to take the leap and just go out there and do it.
Yeah,
You know,
I
still,
think
and
it's
again, I'm still getting my feet wet in it, and I still get nervous when I think about it. But once I get into actually telling my story and actually feeling like I'm making an impact on the people that I'm talking to, then the passion comes out, then the emotion comes out, and then it's just like it's blissful. Like I love that part.
I have heard that some of the like, and even when I was at Amberly's event volunteering, I was in the green room with her. They all get nervous. It's okay. It means you're human.
Yeah, yeah, yes. You should get nervous, or else that means you don't care, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
absolutely.
I think that's amazing. And one of the things I love too is at that particular when we met at Amberly's event, you actually we introduced everybody into a drawing and you won the podcast mic. And I think that's amazing because here we are. We both started our podcast the same month. So I think that's also like the universe telling you again, you need to do the podcast. You need to start it.
Yeah. Signs are everywhere. You just have to listen,
Hmm.
right? And I think that we get caught up in our day-to-day lives and in the grind and in the hamster wheel. And then we get sort of tunnel vision on, again, focusing on the things that we have to do to get to where we want to go. And sometimes those blinders help us. Sometimes they're beneficial, but sometimes they block out those messages that are coming. And if you can sometimes take a sideways breath and just relax and be in the moment, you might notice some of those signals, some of those signs that have been tapping you on the shoulder that can be a life changer.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's so awesome. One of the things I wanted to ask you, we'll be wrapping it up again soon, but I wanted to know what are some of your future goals and your aspirations, both personally and professionally?
Well, they kind of intertwine.
Good.
I want to continue to keep speaking. Eventually, I want to write a book. I want to continue to meet amazing people on the podcast and have people on and share their story because, like you said, now that we have this platform, we have the ability to impact so many people. And if I can take the energy and enthusiasm and the love for what I have done for the past 13 years in terms of being that person, that personal trainer, that confidant in helping somebody realize that they are more powerful than they even know, that they too can do hard things, that they can accomplish their goals with positive persistence. If I can take that and infuse that into the podcast, infuse that into speaking and sharing that story and helping to lift people up and helping them to level up, then I will feel like I'm winning, that I am succeeding. Because there is no better feeling, and I'm speaking for myself, there is no better feeling when you are on the mats with one of your clients and they are able to achieve something that they couldn't do before, or they perceived that they couldn't do before. Whether that be push-ups, burpees, high knees, whatever it is, it's something that they couldn't do yesterday, but they get it done. And then they walk out that door feeling like $1,000,000. They're standing a little bit taller, their chest is puffed out, and now their self-esteem has creeped up. And now not only does that benefit them, but now that positivity radiates to everybody that they touch that day. Everybody that they talk to that day is going to get a piece of that positive feeling that they now have. And if I can replicate that and help people feel the same way, man, that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about.
I love that. That's like when somebody is positive and it radiates, when people have a negative mindset and you're negative, if you go to a coffee shop and you're getting coffee and the person's negative or everybody in line's negative, it just makes you in a bad mood. So you got to surround
Yeah.
yourself with positive people. And then when you are radiating that positivity, it's gonna, I can have a bad, somebody forgot something in my order or something, but they're so positive, like treat me so well that I'm gonna be like, it's okay. Like I'm gonna feel good. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And um, one of the things you said too is just like when they go and they can do that burpee or they can lift those weights or push-ups or whatever, that also means they're going to come back the next day because they're like, what's next? Like, what else can I do?
Yes. Yes, because that then opens the realm of possibility, right? You make that tiny step, you get that little dopamine hit and you get that energy boost, and you're like, man, I can do this. What else can I do?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's like, as when you've ran, running your races and you finish that finish line and then you're like, okay, maybe, you're in pain. You don't always feel, the best afterwards, but then you're like, you put that medal away, you hang it up and you're like, okay, what next? What's the next race I'm gonna do?
Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm glad you feel that way too. Because yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You get done with that painful long race and you're like, I might be able to do better next time.
Yeah.
I need to sign up for another one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. And a lot of people don't understand that, but I'm glad we both do.
Yes, we're on the same level there for sure.
Is there anything that you would like to share with my listeners, perhaps a piece of advice or a motivational thought to leave with them?
I think that it is simply that to never doubt your power. You truly are more powerful than you can ever imagine. And once you are able to align your mind with your heart, you are unstoppable.
Mm, I love that.
And that is to the core, my truth, my belief that once those two things are connected, and once you have it in your mind and in your heart, watch out because you will be on fire.
Mm, I love that. I love that. So how can my listeners reach you? I'll leave the details in the show notes, but what's the best way to reach you? Would it be your website?
They can reach me at my website, which is ianbowen.net. You can also find me on all my socials at Ian R. Bowen. You can also look for the podcast, which is the Positive Persistence Podcast with Ian Bowen, and that's on all the podcast platforms. So there's plenty of places where any of your listeners can reach out, and I would love to contact and reach out to any of them to help them in any way that I can. I truly love what I do, and I feel like if there is a purpose that I was put on this planet, this is it, to be in this space. And if there is a reason for me going through the journey that I've been on, this is it, to help other people get through their journey as well.
I love that. I love that because there's so many people that may not have a positive mindset right now, or like things that are going on in their lives, and they just need to understand that they can get through the hard, and then you are an inspiration to show them like, these are the things that I've done, these are the things that I can help you with. And even listening to a speech that you did or your podcast, those are the ways that they can get out of their head the negativity to reach the positivity and know that they can do hard things. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I thank you for being on the show, and I gonna leave all your details in the show notes.
Awesome. Angelina, thank you so much for having me on the show. It has been an honor, and I really appreciate you. And this has been a great experience.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine. We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. And until next time, keep refining and keep shining.